Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Across the Pond podcast. It is Tuesday, the 16th of June 2020, and I want to welcome you to a very special podcast. Later on, we'll be interviewing George Reynolds, a quarterback who's in the NFL Academy and for the GB Lions as well. If you can see my face on an awful quality of a webcam, it's awful. You are obviously on my YouTube, but if you're listening to my voice and can't see my face, then you need to go and find my YouTube. You can find the YouTube at the Across the Pond podcast. You can also go on my Instagram. I posted it on there. But like I said, if you can see my face, you are on the new YouTube channel. So welcome. We'll be doing a lot more of these and a lot more interviews, hopefully, with some amazing guests. Not that we haven't had amazing guests already on, but we'll be getting more guests on every week, hopefully, to try bring some more entertainment to you. But we've just interviewed George Reynolds, so I'll leave that at the end of the podcast and the end of this YouTube video, because this will be the full podcast. But we still need to talk about the NFL because we love the NFL. Yeah, that's why that's why I made this podcast. Before we start, I've got a special sponsor in this video. This is Mention UK. Mention is a giveaway site. They do competitions and giveaways for NFL authentic merchandise. You can win helmets that are signed. You can win shirts that are signed. Go follow them on Instagram at Mention UK. That's MEMTION UK. And you can find their exclusive Facebook group at Mention UK as well if you go on Facebook. They want me to tell you that Mention is the home of giving back to grassroots American football. If you want to win some amazing prizes, they do it every single week, giveaways and competitions. So if you want to go win some stuff, go find their Instagram, see what they're about, go win some things, and if you do anything, tag me, I guess. But go follow them. They support us, so we support them as well. Thank you for them for supporting us. So yeah, go to Mention UK on Instagram. Get it sorted if you haven't already. But let's move straight on into this NFL podcast. There's been a little bit of news, but we're just going to keep it on the low. The first thing we're going to be talking about is Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, the coach who just took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Kyle is 40 years old, so he's getting on a little bit, but for coaching standards, that's pretty young. You think about Bill Belichick, he's like 75 almost. So he's a young young head coach, sorry. He's got a long time left in the NFL, and he's only just started, really. You look at last year, he took the 49ers through an incredible season, completely changed their season around from last year, took them to the Super Bowl, sadly choked in the Super Bowl again. Like he already did that in Super Bowl 51. He choked in this Super Bowl as well, Super Bowl 53. And like the third quarter, everything started to go to hell. But the 49ers, they have signed him on a contract extension for 6 more years. So a long time, but they obviously believe in him. And after what he did for the organization and the franchise, taking them to that Super Bowl, which they should have won, in my opinion, I can't blame them. Like I said, he lost Super Bowl 51 and 54, choked both of them, but he got them there. He helped the Falcons get there. He helped the 49. He took the 49ers there. He's a good coach. They brought him on. They believe in him. I believe in him. This guy is great at creating offenses. You think about the offense that he created with the 49ers. He brought Jimmy Garoppolo in. Obviously, Jimmy got injured, hasn't been able to play, is now able to play this season. I think this is his first season back, and he took them to the Super Bowl. So, number one, Jimmy G is obviously a good quarterback fit for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan obviously knows what he's doing. He's brought in, like George Kittle there. He's got a great running back group. I'm not a 49ers fan, so I'm not going to go very deep into all the players, but they have some good players, and they proved it by going to the Super Bowl. Like I said, he's a good offensive guy, and with the 49ers bringing him back, he's going to bring stability. But they want him there to win some medal, and it's simple as that. Like, they believe he can do it. Why not? Why not believe he can do it? He just flipped their season around. As soon as Jimmy came back, it looked like Jimmy was going to be awful. He flipped their season around. He's brought in new people. He's brought in Jimmy at the quarterback position. He's made him excel in his first season. Why not keep him on another 6 years? I mean, I don't think there's any 49ers fan that is sitting there with their pitchfork and a fire torch in the other hand, both hands full of weapons to go and assault the 49ers facility, because then no one's going to be angry about this. No one's going to be angry about this. It's a good move for the 49ers. It's a good move for 49ers fans. You bring in someone who obviously knows how to get your team successful. Well, he's obviously proved it. He made them successful. 49ers fans know that this guy can win them some silverware. If you don't think he can win the team some silverware, I mean, you're getting a bit delusional, because he is a good head coach. He's young in head coach terms, standards, and he's explosive. He calls plays that are unexpected. He's very heavy, and he makes it work. So Kyle Shanahan has been signed for another 6 years to the 49ers, whether you like it or not. That's happened. I don't think there'll be any 49ers fan who is unhappy with this. Like I said, I don't see how you can be, but that's it. Kyle Shanahan signed to the 49ers. Hopefully he doesn't choke again, because he's done it twice, and if he chokes again, then maybe I'll give you an excuse to be angry. But if he goes to a Super Bowl and he doesn't choke, then you'll see that they made the right pick. I think it's the right pick. I hope everyone else thinks it's the right pick. But Kyle Shanahan signed to 6 years with the 49ers, or an extra 6 years. We move on now to number 2 of this podcast segment. And this, once again, revolves around coronavirus. We aren't going to hear the end of the coronavirus for a very long time. It's going to be relevant in football, in the world, for years to come. So if you think it's over now, because you can go out to the store, you can go out and get a McDonald's, you go out and get KFC, it's not over. It's not over. It's not going to be over for a while. There's always going to be some sort of worry, hesitance about it coming back up, and obviously a second wave. And the NFL has now seen a spike in cases. They had a few players get it at the start when coronavirus was coming around, and now there's more players with it. The Texans and the Cowboys have reported that multiple players from both organizations have been tested positive. One of those players is Zeke, the guy who eats all the time. Zeke, eat. He's got it. The star running back for the Cowboys has coronavirus. His agent says that Zeke is feeling good. That's what's come out from his agent. The Cowboys have reported that they can't talk on anyone else because of safety. It's all that boring legal stuff. They can't come out and talk about any players, what's going on with them. So we're pretty much in the dark, but we do know that Ezekiel Elliott has coronavirus. Hopefully he's at home, he's resting, he's doing okay. His agent said he's doing okay. But this was expected. Okay, so in May, Dr. Alan Stills is the chief NFL medical advisor. This is a quote from him. "We fully expect we will have positive cases." That's referencing being into the future around now, and it's proven that the NFL have got an issue on their hands. A lot of players have had it. There's a lot of players, if you look on social media, who are meeting up with people. I believe there was a big house party with Cam Newton. I believe Alvin Kamara went as well. I think Todd Gurley. There's a few players who went to Cam Newton's place, played basketball, met up with each other, no social distancing. This is going to be expected when people do that. And it's a bad image for the NFL when your players are supposed to be social distancing and setting an example, and then all of a sudden multiple people have it, and one of your star players, one of the star faces of the NFL and of the Cowboys franchise, also has coronavirus. I don't know if this would slow down the process of opening up the NFL season, opening up stadiums, getting fans back in. Will this slow it down? Hopefully not. Hopefully, because of the actions of some people, this won't slow down the NFL's move, because they're moving forward. Practice facilities have been opened. Players can't go in just yet, but coaches have been allowed in. But hopefully this doesn't slow it down. So the Cowboys have an issue on their hands. Ezekiel Elliott could be out for a while. He could miss a lot of training because of this. They might not want him back. I mean, once he gets better and their class is having him better, I think it's like a 2-week cool down period before you start going out again if you have coronavirus. So that could mean he misses training camps, team meetings, anything to do with football, he could miss. And that's not good for the Cowboys. It's not good for him as well. Players should be more careful. He should be more careful. The Cowboys have an issue on their hands now because of his actions. And yeah, here we go again. More coronavirus, more issues with the corona. The only corona you should like is the beer. And if you like this corona and you want to go get it, I mean, that's up to you, but you shouldn't. And especially if you play in the NFL, you should be someone who people look up to and shouldn't be going out, shouldn't be partying, and shouldn't be meeting up with loads of friends, especially when you're in the spotlight. But yeah, let's move on to our final NFL topic. And after this, we'll get on to our interview with George Reynolds. We'll move on to our final NFL topic. It's my top bets for the season. I like betting. I think many people do. It makes the sport a lot more fun. It gives you a little bit of motivation to go and watch like the Browns and the Bengals because like you've got some money on it. Gamble responsible. Don't be stupid with gambling, and you'll have fun. But if you want to have some fun and you want to earn some money at the same time, here are my top picks. And if these don't go well, don't blame me and ask for a refund of the money you spent, because never listen to a guy on a screen. That's it. Especially with someone who's got such a bad webcam like me. We're going to go. I've done it in pounds of how much you should spend and how much you get out of it. I brought my paper over. So the Super Bowl winners, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. If you put £5 on, which if you're American is $6.30. If you put $6.36 on, you will get, if you put £5 on, you will get £32 return. Each one of these is a £5 bet, so it will be like the estimate to each one. It will be roughly the same, and you earn £32. Like I said, £5 is $6.30. I've got to win the AFC East is the Bills. The Bills surprisingly aren't the number one pick on the app for winning the AFC East. The Patriots still are. And then the Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And then the Jets. The Jets come in at last. But if you put £5 on the Bills winning the AFC East, you will get a £12 return. Not a great return. However, it's some money. And with the rate of the AFC it is at the moment, I don't think the Patriots will win. Even though I'm a Patriots fan, I don't think the Patriots will win. The Jets won't win. The Dolphins are good contenders, so you could put some money on the Dolphins. But I still think at the end of the day, it's the Bills is the only option if you want to bet on it. So put your money on the Bills. Don't put your money on the Patriots because it's you won't get a lot out of it. And let's be honest, they probably won't win. But then with the AFC West, I've gone with the Chiefs. I mean, because why not? I've literally got them as the Super Bowl winners, so why wouldn't I have them coming out of the East? The East is a weak division. They've got the Chargers. They've got the Raiders. They've got the Broncos. No. None of them teams, to me, can beat the Chiefs. I just don't see anyone else going into the West. I mean, it would be a miracle if a team could come out above the Chiefs in the division. It would be a miracle. I've got the Chiefs winning the division, and this is how likely it is the Chiefs to win the division. If you put £5 on, you only get £1 back. And like in American terms, that's like a $1.20 return. So it's nothing. So what I said was, hey, look, the Chiefs are probably going to win, but if you want a bet that's going to get you some money and could happen, go for the Broncos. The Broncos are 9-1 on the app that I used. And if you put £2 on, which is like, $2.40 something. If you put that much money on, you would get a £20 return. Now, I don't think this will happen. That's why I'm just saying if you want. I don't think this will happen, just down to the fact that the Chiefs, number one, are so dominant. And number two, the only reason I say that is because Drew Lock could be someone to look out for. He could take them far, but also at the same time, we've just got to hope that Kansas City Chiefs don't do well, which is pretty hard when they brought 20 out of the 22 starters back. So you can go with the Chiefs on there, and I think you'll feel pretty confident, but it's a high risk and low reward situation. It's not really a high risk though, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, they've literally just went and smashed the season last year. The season before, they could have got to the Super Bowl as well, and they're probably going to go again. They'll be first in the division. But if you want, go for the Broncos, put a little bit of money on, see if it happens, see if it works. Sports are crazy. It won't be the first time that someone's won a lot of money from a crazy bet. We go down to the NFC now and to the south of the NFC, and I've got the Bucks winning the division. Good bet. You put £5 on, you get $11.25 back. The Saints are put higher than the Bucks. However, I still think the Bucks will take it. This wasn't my original pick on one of my old podcasts. I said that the Saints will probably beat the Bucks and probably win out the division, have a better record. But just with the things that's happened with Drew Brees recently, I just feel like that locker room is going to take a lot to get back to the camaraderie they had. Their leadership's going to lack. I just feel like they're just going to drop some games that I didn't account for. I feel like what happened with Drew Brees really affected them. And I just think that the Bucks have the best chance now. The Bucks are the people to beat in the South. The Saints could have been, but with all of this going on, I think it really changes the atmosphere in the locker room. I think it really changes the connection between the wide receivers and Drew Brees. I think this just changes the outcome of their season. It's sad to think that, but I do. So with the Bucks, £5 on, $11.25 return, go for them. And finally, we come to our last pick, the NFC West. I've got the Seahawks winning this. Seahawks weren't the favourite to win this year. However, if you put £5 on, you get $16.25 back. But I think the Seahawks are the favourites to win, in my opinion, just down to the fact that they've got Russell Wilson. Their running backs are coming off injury. Carlos Hyde is joining the team, so that should give them more stability in the running back position. DK Metcalf, beast. Russell Wilson can make it happen with anyone. They've got Tyler Lockett. They've got still the Legion of Boom sort of remains there. Pete Carroll remains there. They're the team to beat in the NFC West. I don't see how you can debate that. I mean, probably someone can, but I think that they're the team to beat. They're the team to win the NFC West. Because of mainly just down to the fact that they've got Russell Wilson. He's a great quarterback. He makes things happen, and that guy can win. That guy can ball. He should have 2 Super Bowls if they just handed the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, but oh well. But altogether, if you spend £25 on betting and you picked all my bets, apart from the Broncos one was just a side one. If you picked all of them, you would get £61.25 back, which is equivalent to $77.13. Obviously, you've got to work out how much you spent on betting in dollars, so you can convert £25 to dollars, and you'll see there. But that has been the NFL side of the podcast. Now let's move on to the interview with George Reynolds. George is a quarterback for the NFL Academy. He also plays for the GB Lions and has played for the Kent Exiles. This is all in British football, by the way, so people from the States who don't have an understanding, listen carefully, and you get to experience how British football is over here, how the sport's played. We have a nice little conversation about the academy, about the sport, and also George tells us what he learned from Kirk Cousins, a little bit of advice from Kirk Cousins, and gives it to you as well. So I hope you enjoyed the NFL side of the podcast. I'm sorry it was so short, but it's just because I wanted to fit the interview in as well. And we had a long podcast last week. I will see you next week with more NFL news, with a longer segment, and hopefully we'll get on another guest from a different podcast as well, fingers crossed, and it will be another great podcast. Before I go and we go to the interview, follow me on Instagram at @across_the_pond. You can find me on there. That's where I'll upload whenever I upload a podcast, or I'll also upload some stats, some facts, and news on the NFL as well. And if you're listening to the podcast, like I said at the start, follow me on YouTube or subscribe to me on YouTube at the Across the Pond podcast. I'll leave that on my Instagram as well, if you haven't heard already. But I want to thank you for listening to the NFL segment, and let's get straight on to the interview with George Reynolds. Okay, so joining with us today is George Reynolds. George is an NFL Academy player and is first time on the podcast. George, you played in the NFL Academy, or you're playing in the NFL Academy now. You played for the GB Lions juniors team. and Kent Exiles. Am I right?
Yes, that's right.
So, when in your journey on the NFL, it's not new to you. You've been following football for a while. Obviously, your father, George Reynolds, is into football himself, pretty big star in football. So, how did you start in football? What gave you the motivation to go in and be a quarterback?
So growing up as a kid, I was always a fan of the NFL. I'd followed a lot of teams. I've been to some of the London games, and with my dad being very involved, he really gave me that insight into the sport that I just knew I loved it. So when I got to maybe like 13 or 14, I decided that I actually wanted to play the sport myself. So I went to my dad and asked him what team would be good for me. And he recommended the Kent Exiles as he used to play for them when he was younger. So I decided to go along to a few flag practices, quite a young age group. And from there, I just worked my way up and I just knew that I loved the sport and I wanted to make sure that I went as far as I could. So when I got the opportunity for the GB Lions, I made sure I tried out. And then when the NFL Academy came along, I made sure I tried out for that as well. So it's just a great sport. And I knew I loved it from when I was young. And I really wish I'd started earlier, but now that I'm playing it, I love the sport.
What age did you start
I started at around 13 or 14
at? 13,
playing flag
14.
football.
And did you
Yeah.
start playing quarterback straight away? Was that your go-to position, or did you experience different parts of the sport, or was quarterback your starting place?
I turned up at my first practice wanting to be a receiver, actually.
Okay.
So I went down to a flag practice and they put me at receiver and I was running routes like the rest of the kids. And it wasn't until maybe a few practices later that our starting quarterback wasn't going to be available for our game. So they tried out a few guys at quarterback, and I realized I could actually throw quite well, and I wanted to play that position. And growing up when I was younger, I'd always looked to the quarterback position as the one I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
But as I started, it just seemed right to, as most kids want to be, they start off out as a receiver and then see what feels best for them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so not only have you played quarterback from a young age, but then you've now gone to be successful being quarterback. You joined the NFL Academy. So, from what I've gathered online, the NFL Academy is a bunch of kids from the UK and Europe, I believe, some as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, from
and
Europe as well.
tryouts, make the team, and it's your shot at going to the NFL without being in the US. Obviously, because the majority of NFL players are from the US, small majority from Canada, and then a few from other places in the world, but majority is from the US. Not many people get the opportunity to go to the NFL from the UK, but the NFL Academy is giving the opportunity for people in Britain and Europe to go to the NFL from the UK. So, explain a bit what it's about and what the program can offer to people.
Yeah, so the NFL Academy really is trying to replicate what Americans get in high schools over in the US, because a lot of times in the UK, teams train, like club teams train once a week, maybe twice. And that's a low number of like practices for if we want to get better and go over to the States. And the NFL Academy really offers an opportunity for us to practice 3 times a week with the best competition from around Europe. We've got linebackers from Switzerland and receivers from Germany. So it's a great opportunity just to experience how hard working you have to be if you want to play college football or even high school football. And it really sets you in the path to get there, where you know how much you have to train, how much gym work there is, and it really just shows what dedication you have to put into the sport.
So, if we're looking on their Instagram, it looks really professional. They've got all the videos going out. And the one video that I found on there was a video of you and a few of the boys going over to the Pro Bowl. So you went
Yeah,
over to the Pro Bowl and you met some players, but players have also been to the academy, right? OBJ came, said hello.
yeah. So
Juju Smith-Schuster as well.
we've had a lot of players come over, and that's another great opportunity for us because being from the UK, we really idolize these players that we see in the NFL, and they're who we want to be in effect. So when one of them comes down, or a few of them come down, like OBJ or Juju, it really shows that we are being recognized and we can make a difference. Like, we can actually get to the States. So it really influences us to keep working and try hard to get over there.
But you were the first selection for the first time in the NFL Academy. Am I right? You're one of the first
Yes.
people to get in. So obviously, at the moment, it's young. It's not very established as like it will be in future generations. But for so far, what have you got from the NFL Academy? You know, what is it giving you?
Yeah, it's just I feel like it's an opportunity I didn't get anywhere else in British football, because I'm now getting to train 3 times a week, where it's 11-a-side practices every week on top of each other, going against the best athletes I've ever played against. And it really just gives me that opportunity to get better with such high level coaching. And I just know that this will help me get to the States, which is my ultimate goal.
As obviously Britball is 7 versus 7 at junior level as well, isn't it? So obviously you don't get the same experience as someone who's playing high school or starts at Pee Wee, you know, goes up into the juniors, goes into high school and then college, etc. It's giving a platform to people who don't have a platform originally. So Britball, it's very small. There's not the same amount of competition, and also the games aren't the same. So, like I said, when you join the NFL Academy, it's a good thing. But what is it like in the locker room between you and the boys? Like, is it a special bond? Is it, we can go further with this? How do you feel with the people around you, the coaches around you? How is it?
Yeah, it's a great bond between us, because we know that we are the first class of the NFL Academy, and it really gives us something to work to, because we know like, we are the first class and we have to prove that this will work. And bringing in talent from all across Europe and the best players from the UK and training them to be better than we've ever been, because we have such high level coaching and such high level competition, that this really proves what we can make out of ourselves. And the camaraderie between the teammates is better than any locker room I've been in before. We work so well as a team, and even though we've only been together a year, we've grown some really good bonds. And I know if we went out against another team in a game, we'd fight together and we'd come out with wins, especially playing against unis here or American high schools even.
Well, you mentioned being the first selection, first draft selection, if you want to call it that. Does that have a bit of pressure on your back? Does that make it harder to go out there and perform when you've got that pressure of, if we don't make it, this organization might not go on in the future?
I think there is a little bit of pressure there, knowing that we are the first class, if you like to say, and all eyes are on us to see what we do with it. But I think that's good pressure, because it really makes me want to succeed and want to get to America, because I know I can do it. And if I can do that, I can inspire other kids in the UK to try out for the academy and see if they can make it. And I take that pressure on, and that pressure with, there was 4 quarterbacks this year, and that competition, I take that pressure and I make sure that I'm training my best every day I go out there, so that I can succeed in future.
So you've made it there. Any advice to people who want to join the NFL Academy, people who are looking to join it, think it's a good idea? What is the advice you'd give, being one of the first people to be selected into the academy?
I think it's just, make sure you have to be very hardworking. So going into the academy, you have to know that you are going to be put to the test, and it's going to be a different level of football and a different level of physicality. So going into the tryouts, if you want to get into the academy, you have to make sure you're smart and you're physical and you're fast. It's just, you have to know that when you get there, it's going to be a different level. And it's a great opportunity. And if your dreams are go to America to play college, then you have to try out for this. It's the best way to get to America at the moment.
You want to go to America, am I right in saying that, and play in college football?
Yeah, that's my goal. I want to play in college football,
And then go
hopefully
on to the
Division
next
One.
stage as well, into the NFL. So
Yeah, that's the goal.
how are you preparing yourself to get there? Obviously, you're going to the NFL Academy. You said you're training 3 times a week. I bet you're training by yourself, personal training as well. But
Yep, I train every week, every
what's
other
your goal
day.
to? How do you get there? What's the step that you need to take to get there? Because obviously, not many people have done it. What is your step to get from the UK to college? Not only do you train hard, but what is the everything in between the training?
Yeah, so it's all about trying to find exposure because it's very easy for high school athletes in America to get noticed because scouts can come down to their games and stuff. For us, we're in such a situation where we are abroad and we aren't what normal scouts would look for. So knowing we are different, we have to find a way of making ourselves stand out, whether that's through a good highlight reel. And then you have to make sure you are sending that out to coaches every day so that they can see it. And that just leads on to the next steps where you build relationships with coaches and players from other schools. And then they can start to offer you. That's the goal. And you have to make sure you're on top of the recruitment process every day.
With it, the people out there in the States, they're tough guys. Obviously, it's competition each time. There's thousands of kids out there in the US. You've got to make yourself stand out. So, like you said, by sending tape over, etc. Have you built any connections over there in the US with any coaches, with any teams? You know, have you got anything that you've sort of built from sending out tape?
So yeah, I've had a recent opportunity that has really been a breakthrough for me in recruitment. So one of the top recruiters in America, Tom Lemming, who he studies the best recruits in high school football. He gave me a phone call the other day and told me that he was going to be using me in his summer publishment, which goes out to every college in America. And I feel like these sort of breakthroughs are really good for me because it gets my film out there and it'll get me more exposure. And that means I can have better relationships with coaches in the future. And hopefully that leads to some Division One offers.
Exactly. If you've been scouted by one of the best who scouts high school, I mean, that's something to be proud of. Did the phone call go well with him then? Did it seem like you're on the right track to get into the States?
Definitely, it seemed very good. He was very impressed with my tape. And he said he would include me in the magazine for the top players in the States. So I feel like it's a good step forward for me, knowing that I can send this film off to coaches.
So the final thing about the NFL Academy and where you've got, obviously you played with the GB Lions, so you've also learned from some good coaches and Kent Exiles, you've been playing there as well. So you've had a lot of opportunity to develop the sport, develop your position at quarterback. But what has the NFL Academy taught you about being a quarterback, about being a player that you've never learned anywhere else? Something exclusive that you just got from being in the academy?
So growing up, I was coached by Zach Ritchie at the Kent Exiles, and he taught me a lot about how to be a quarterback in the sense of how to throw the ball well, how your mechanics work, footwork and stuff like that. And that really developed me in the sense that I was able to then go out on the field and make the throws. But going into the NFL Academy, I began to get coached by Coach Jerome Allen, and he taught me about how to play 11-a-side football and how to actually be a smart football player. And that really took my game forward another step because I understand when I step on the field what the defense are going to do and what I do to counter that, basically. And going into the academy, it really taught me how to be an actual football player and that it's not just with your body that you make plays, it's with your mind. And you can beat teams just by being smart. And going into the academy, knowing that I would get that sort of coaching, it really set me on a path to be at the level I need to be at to go to college football, because I know I can then be as smart as the smartest players in America.
The sport is a mind game. The position is a mind game. You look at quarterbacks like Tom Brady. He doesn't run like Lamar Jackson, but the way he plays is with his mind. And if you can develop your mind and you can develop your leadership, you can definitely take the sport to a new level at being a quarterback. So it's obviously something you're looking to do, except go to the NCAA, potentially Division One, and then hopefully trying to move on to the NFL as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we talked about the NFL Academy, and we're talking about the GB Lions and your time at the Kent Exiles. And what a lot of people aren't used to is Britball. A lot of my viewers are from the US, and obviously no one really knows about Britball. It's not as exposed as anything out there in the US is. You can explain to me, because you've had more experience out in Britball than me, what is Britball and what is it all about?
So Britball is really a way for fans in the UK and people who have grown up loving the sport to get involved. And that goes across all age groups. So it starts off at flag, which is ages from as young as like 7 or 8 to up to 13 or 14. And it just, like, where we have less experience with the sport, it really helps you develop. Like flag, it's a small step into the sport before you go into contact 5-a-side. And then you go into juniors, which is 9-a-side. and it really helps you develop. So Britball is a way of getting fans to play the sport while also helping them develop so they can be the best players they are.
And obviously, football isn't as established, like I said, as anything in the US, but it's unique, right? You're seven lads on the field against another seven lads on the field. You're close knit. You train 2 times a week. When I played, we trained 2 times a week. Was it the same for you? 2 times a week?
I trained 2 times a week, which was one with my junior team and one with the senior team on the weekends.
Oh, so it was only one for each, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had two, but see, it's very limited. But the bonds you build there last a lifetime. You meet people there that you'll forever be in contact with. What is something that you've learned from Bitball, aside from anything you learned in the academy, that you would take on with you in life, and something that if people want to join Bitball, that they can expect to find in Bitball?
I think really for me, it was just being developed as a quarterback, because going in, I was a fan. I knew what the sport was about, but I never really knew how to play because I hadn't had that exposure from a young age. So when I went into it, I took the opportunities at every level, whether that was youth playing five-a-side up to nine-a-side, and even at GB football. I took each opportunity as a way to develop, with my coaches telling me reads and plays and how they would work against defenses, even if that was limited. So when I played at nine-a-side, most defenses would be cover one man defenses, at most cover two. So it really was limited reads, but it was something that I wasn't used to before. So being able to learn that, even if it was at slow steps, it really brought me up to the stage where I'm at now, where I can learn at the academy to go even more advanced.
And you also, like I said, we mentioned you played with the GB Lions as well. So that's where they get the best players from Britball around the country for the juniors level that you were in. Bring them together and you go abroad. You play against, I think you played against France, haven't you?
I played against France, the Netherlands, and Norway.
And there was a 3-game stretch, wasn't it? About a
Yeah.
year ago, I think it was. When you're going against these people from different countries, what have you noticed from places around the world? How advanced is football in Europe?
I think it's a lot more advanced than people think it is. And there are the bases that could lead to teams being very good. And I saw in a lot of teams very good athletes. When I played against the Netherlands, I played against two cornerbacks who are at D1 colleges now. So there is that talent in the UK and around Europe that can make it to colleges in America. And I feel like we are developing as like a country and in Europe in football. So each teams are getting better, their playbooks are getting more advanced. I think overall competition and the development of players is getting a lot higher in standard.
What can people in Europe, not just the people, what can the teams in Europe do to actually get out there and be better and create something of the league more than just a low-key thing? How can the whole league get noticed?
I think it's a lot about repetition, and it's not about having the most complex playbook, but it's about performing well and being physical. And if you train like 3 or 4 times a week, like the academy does, you're always going to improve. Like from this year, we had players that hadn't even played football before, and at the end of the season, they're making big plays. So it's really about the repetition. And I think teams in Europe can take that on board and train more times a week and play with not more complex playbooks, but playbooks that they know will work when they step into games. Even if that's only 10 plays that they understand will work, as long as they know why they work. I think it's about teaching the players. If you teach the players how to be smart football players and play the game well, then they will take that and develop that, and they can become better football players. And then the standard around Europe becomes better as players know what they're doing more.
Well, you mentioned about the NFL Academy before, but then you just told me something that I didn't know. People came into the NFL Academy with zero experience of football, no idea how to play the game. Oh, there we are. Okay. No idea to play the game. No experience, no idea on the rules. How did they find it, and what about them was different? Because obviously, if you've got a lot of people like yourself who played with the GB Lions, Kent Exiles before coming to the NFL Academy, how can someone like that go in there, stand out, and show people like, hey, I can be here as well?
Yeah, well, the NFL Academy offered the opportunity for not just football players, but athletes across Europe. So about 35 of our 80 to 90 student athletes were players who had never performed in football before. So that ranged from sprinters to rugby players to just athletes, or we had a swimmer even on the team. And it was really about having them learn the game at the same rate as us and getting them up to speed. Because if you teach the best athlete how to play football, they can be better than an average athlete who knows how to play football. It really offered an opportunity for these guys to come in, try a new sport, and even excel at it. Some of our best players weren't football players at the start of this year.
That's actually crazy to think. But you think about in the US, you've got people who go to the NFL, the NBA, who played basketball. A lot of NFL players play basketball. A lot of NBA players have played football as well. You think about LeBron James as a star tight end as well. So you can get them athletes in there. It's not all about, like you said, it's not all about knowing the sports, but people who are athletic and have the right mindset, they can go in there and they can shine. Like you said, a swimmer even went in there. Nothing to do with something on the ground that's in water, but he still went out there and performed. And I find
Definitely.
that's crazy to me that they managed to do it. But respect to them, it's props to where it is. Have you got any good stories about Britball, about your time in it? Just something that stands out to you that people might not expect?
I think one of my first year playing youth football, which was five-a-side, I had nerves going into it. My first time playing kids' football, and our team performed very well. We ended up getting to the national finals, and that was such a great year for me because it really set me on a path. Like I knew where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and I was with such great teammates. We had good offense, good defense, and going into every game, it was so much fun being able to play Britball with my best friends. And we went in, we got to the national finals, we competed. Like that was such a great experience for me, being able to travel up and play against the best teams in the country. And really that just gave me the experience of playing competitive football.
Well, hopefully you can play competitive football at the highest level one day in the NFL. But a little bit of a fantasy question for you. If you were to get into the NFL, what team would you want to play for? And is there a particular coach or player that you'd like to be with?
I feel like the team I would like to play for is the Colts. They're my favorite team, so
Okay.
I'd love to be on that team.
You got that
Good
Philip
O-line to
Rivers,
protect me. Yeah,
Philip Rivers look going on as well, so maybe you could.
Yeah, I hope so. And I feel like players is like you always want a good O-line in front of you. And playing for the Colts, you'd have Quentin Nelson, who's the best
exactly.
guard in the league, someone like that protecting for you. But if I had to play with one player, it would be for me DeAndre Hopkins. He's a standout wide receiver, and he could literally make me look like the best quarterback in the league.
No, exactly. He's one of the best. He's moved to the Cardinals, so I mean, you'd have a tough time getting him over to the Colts.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you would sway your way and get him over there, because it's not going to be easy to sway. But mate, I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast and talking about the NFL Academy, talking about Britball, and talking about your life. Is there anything you want to say to the listeners before you go about the sport, about any motivation, any leadership?
I feel like it's just something I got told by Kirk Cousins at the Pro Bowl. And it's, if you want your dreams, you can work for them, and you will make it if you work hard enough. And that's just something that stuck with me since I met him and since he told me that. And it really just translates to everything you do in everyday life. If you want to go into a practice and you want to be the first string quarterback, you just have to compete every day. And if you want to be the next guy to go to the NFL from Europe, it's just taking the steps and competing every day and developing as a player. And I feel like NFL Academy for me has been a big step in that. So I think that's a good piece of motivation for me, and I hope it works for others. But just knowing that every day I can work towards my dream. And if I don't make it, it's been a great trip along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Met some great people and you had a great time doing it.
Definitely.
So you can't have any complaints about that, right?
Definitely not.
No, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. Hopefully we get to have you on here again when you a little bit later on into your NFL Academy career, and you can talk a bit more about what you've learned about going to college. Fingers crossed you'll get into that Division 1 school and you'll be able to talk about that as well. But it's been amazing having you on the podcast, and I really appreciate you coming on, mate.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on.
And for everyone out there, you can find George Reynolds on Instagram. As you can get go on Instagram. Your Instagram is
George_Reynolds 10. So find me on there.
find there. And you haven't got any clips on your Instagram, have you?
No, but I've got them on my Twitter, which is George_Reynolds.
There we are. So clips on there as well if you want to see what George has been up to. Mate, I've really had privilege having you on, and I appreciate everything you do for the sport over here in the UK, and I hope you have success in the NFL Academy as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, mate.